election was something that we've never seen.
Camardi Carter, a poll manager at one of the precincts in Metro Atlanta, says everyone felt the pressure but knew what they signed up for.
It's all about accuracy versus speed.
Some election workers ended up going viral, like in Fulton County, when a staff member was falsely accused of throwing out a ballot in a video clip that went viral.
He is currently in hiding because he's had threats.
Election workers also risked their health during the pandemic, and in addition to that, some endured intimidation when crowds gathered outside polling places demanding to stop the vote, and in other locations to keep counting.
They know what they do is important, and they take pride in that.
An essential part of this historic election cycle.
I can look back on and tell my kids I was a part of this monumental election.
Many people don't realize that records with a person's voting history are public record. So are mail-in ballot requests. Our Why Guy, Jared Carnes, takes a look at why people's voting history is public.
It's your little secret.
Like the measles and chickenpox. It comes as President-elect Joe Biden names his COVID-19 transition team.
I will spare no effort to turn this pandemic around.
Putting together a blueprint to ramp up PPE production, protect vulnerable
It's the vaccine that Donald Trump got started.
Distribute an eventual vaccine.
And he's going to try and claim it.
It doesn't matter your party, your point of view. We can save tens of thousands of lives if everyone would just wear a mask for the next few months.
Pfizer has an agreement with the federal government to produce 100 million doses of its vaccine, although they won't all be immediately available upon approval.
The demand will be much higher than anything we can produce. We are even further.
The race entering a critical stretch, with cases in the U.S. topping 10 million and winter fast approaching.
Discovery of 3 bodies in a motel room. They say all 3 victims had been shot to death. Their identities have not been released at this time. 2 days earlier, on Saturday, November 7th, police responded to a parking lot at the Eastgate Apartments on Dowdle Street. There they discovered the body of 39-year-old Warner Mandrell Parks. He also had been shot to death. Murder charges have now been filed against Nicholas Martez Nelson. According to Noonan Police, Nick Nelson's gray Ford Crown Victoria had been seen by witnesses at the apartment murder scene. That car, and later Nelson, were discovered at a local motel where they say they took him into custody. Police say that Nelson is also a suspect in 2 other Noonan murders. On Thursday, November 5th, police say 2 men were gunned down on East Broad Street. Those men have been identified as 39-year-old Willie Edward Bussey and 43-year-old Dwayne Robbins. Investigators say those 2 men were also shot to death. Police have not yet charged Nelson in those cases. Because of the complexity of the case, local law enforcement is working with the GBI and ATF in the investigation.
An investigator. If you're leaving Midtown, this is what we're looking at. That Beaufort Spring connector runs right alongside I-85 northbounder. So if you're leaving Midtown, get over to Piedmont. That can take you over towards Cheshire Bridge. You can take it to Sidney Marcus, get back on 400, or get back on I-85. But right now, avoid Beaufort Spring. Look at this. Still blocking the left lane. 20 eastbound at Fulton Industrial Boulevard. Red alert condition for folks out of Douglasville. 32 minutes from Highway 92 to the perimeter. And there it is on the West Expressway, still blocking the left lane. Francesca?
We are hearing from Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger his fiery response, first defending his own job. In a statement, I want to read this to you. He said, partly, the voters of Georgia hired me, and the voters will be the one to fire me. Raffensperger said he will continue to do his job by making sure all legal votes are counted. In a joint statement, Senators Perdue and Loeffler called the management of Georgia elections, quote, an embarrassment for the state. In response, Raffensperger blamed the dig and calls for his resignation on emotions. The reality that both candidates are going to a runoff in January and the result of the presidential election.
We understand that there's one side of this country that is beautiful. They're ecstatic. They're in the streets partying. Then you have the other side, which are extremely upset. They're angry. They, in their heart of hearts, know in their gut that something terrible happened. And their guy lost, and it's not fair. And when you're this close and the emotions run this high, it's understandable.
And Georgia Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan said yesterday there were no credible evidence, no credible signals of voter fraud. And we also heard from Governor Brian Kemp's office yesterday saying in a statement that the close outcome of all of this needs to be a wake-up call for the Secretary of State's office.
A lot to keep track of yesterday, Joe. Thank you. So he's right in that the margin won't change enough to change the outcome. However, it may slightly change as we get new vote totals and more counties certified throughout the day. Right now, it stands at 12,337 votes, with President-elect Biden leading Georgia. So at this moment, Georgia is still blue, and in fact, he keeps widening that gap. Now, the next question that we're getting is how many ballots are left to count, and it's a good question. We can give you an educated estimate. We believe that at this point, there are about 2,000 ballots left to count somewhere around the state. Hard to pinpoint exactly where. But this is where we're keeping track of how many counties have finished counting. The orange counties means they've certified. They are done counting. Their number is final. So at this moment, we have 76 counties that have certified. We have about 83 left to go. So according to this pie chart, you can see still more than half left to certify, but we are making some progress. So back to this total, though, because I was just looking in our past numbers. This number has changed a good bit just since last Friday. That spread was just over 1,500, and now it is up to over 12,000. Sheba. Christy, thank you. In the Secretary of State's office.
Sure, but we do want to show you some video from the scene so you can get an idea of what happened. South Fulton police tell us that they got the call this morning in reference to a person shot and another person assaulted. This was off the 6800 block off Camp Valley Road. Now, officers say, as I mentioned, that one was shot in the hand, the other physically injured. The preliminary investigation reveals a fight broke out between the victims and another group just seconds before the shooting. So detectives canvassed the area this morning just looking for any evidence, and this investigation does remain ongoing. We're still working to get a description of the suspect that police are looking for and also a motive for the shooting. That's the latest here.
I haven't seen anything in the news yet on Pennsylvania. I think somebody might have been pulling somebody's shorts. Don't know what to think about that thing on Pennsylvania. There were quite a few people that didn't even bother to vote for president on their ballots. That must have been the mail-in. I don't know why. I guess he didn't like either candidate. Which I can understand. I don't like Biden. Don't like Biden at all. Don't trust him. He's lied too much.
Who waited in a car at the end of the street. Joanne?
The Justice Department, while serious allegations should be handled with great care, specious, speculative, fanciful, or far-fetched claims should not be a basis for initiating federal inquiries. Still, a green light to possibly investigate some claims was enough for one Justice Department official to resign his post. A Georgia elections official cautioned that in any election, there will be at least isolated problems.
We are going to find that people did illegally vote. That's going to happen. There are going to be double voters. There are going to be people who did not have the qualifications of a registered voter to vote in this state. That will be found.
But he says it's unlikely to change the outcome.
I won't be president until January 20th.
Joe Biden, meantime, trying to forge ahead. Yesterday, he talked about the coronavirus. Today, he'll address health care and the big case coming before the Supreme Court today, questioning the constitutionality of Obamacare. And those arguments get underway this morning with the court's full complement of 9 justices. In Washington, Doug Luzader for Good Day Atlanta.
Georgia's 2 senators are...
Well, we get the dough the same place we get the labor. 200 or 300 XGIs, just like us. And we're all partners.
Gentlemen, your problem of capital is secondary. Now, the first thing to be considered is which camp you intend to reconvert first. If the government will sell, and if so, for how much, right?
Right.
Right. Now, do any of you boys know Camp Kilson?
Oh, sure. That's just outside of New York. That's where I was induced into the Army. Induced? You mean inducted? Oh, no.
Me, they had to induce.
Actually trust. President Trump's campaign has made Doug Collins its representative in Georgia. He and Raffensperger both say they have found isolated instances of potential voter fraud, but Raffensperger says it's not enough to change the outcome so far. It would be Secretary Raffensperger's decision on whether to do a lengthy and somewhat costly hand recount of the presidential race, a decision he says he's likely to make later this week. 11 of my viewers have been texting.
All these Joe Biden supporters that's sending money in for a recount fund, guess what? It's going right into the DNC's pocket. Ain't going for no recount fund. They think they don't need one. Which makes me think that they know they got caught.